guys, and welcome back to Just Tiffany. So, today I'm back with another video, um, kind of like a story time video, and it's going to be kind of long. I was going to separate it, but most likely I've seen with other YouTubers, if I can talk, that most people don't watch the second half of the story time. So, this story time is going to be the twins' birth story, and it's kind of crazy, the story. So let's get into it. Let me get my phone just because I want to make sure I'm saying the days of the week that events happen on correctly and such and such. So, all right. So it was August 26th, and it just was a regular Sunday. Um, I have been kind of take things easy, just because at that time I was 34 weeks, and by the time I was like 30 weeks, I was just like, I'm tired. So I was just trying to take things easy because I wanted the boys to stay in as long as possible. So I started having contractions in the late evening. I want to say like around 7, maybe 6 or 7 o'clock. So they were like mild period cramps. And for you ladies, you know that a period cramp can go from mild to severe. And personally, I have very severe ones. And it was nothing compared to the severe ones. It was just very mild. And my doctor had warned me that because I was having two, that I most likely would have contractions, rather, I should say. So I started having contractions, and I ended up on the phone talking to my mom on Facebook Messenger. They have where you can basically FaceTime each other through Facebook. And I have an Android phone. So we were chitty chatting, and I was making faces. So she was like, "Why are you making faces?" And I was like, "I'm having contractions." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm having contractions, but they're very mild. Nothing severe. My water hasn't broke. I'm not in any severe pain. I don't have any other symptoms." And I said, "My doctor warned me." And I told her that if it got worse, that I would call my doctor in the morning because it was already like 8 o'clock or whatever. And I really didn't want to be bothered with the emergency room and stuff. So um, we just kept talking, and she was like, she started timing them probably like around 10:30, a quarter, yeah, like 10:30. And she was like, "Your contractions are every 5 minutes apart." They're like, I'm sorry, they're 5 minutes apart. I'm like, okay. And she was like, "I think you should go to the hospital." And I was like, "I don't want to go to the hospital. I'd rather call my doctor in the morning and, get her to squeeze me in and see me and, go from there." And she just kept talking, and she was like, "I really just would like for you to get checked out, whatever the case may be." Um, so by the time that happened, um, I agreed. And then by the time that happened, she got a car and came and got me, my husband, my two kids, because um, I couldn't drive and my husband doesn't drive. So, and my mom was watching my niece at the time. So it was 3 adults and 3 kids. So we went to the hospital, went to the emergency room, and the lady asked me why I was there. And I said, "Well, I'm having contractions. And my mom just wants me to get checked out." So I came in just to get checked out. So they take me upstairs, and the nurse is like, "Well, did you call the doctor?" And I said, "I didn't call nobody." And she was like, "Well, you should have called the doctor to inform them," and da da da. Like, she didn't want me to be there or whatever. And I'm like, I've already talked to my doctor numerous times, and she told me that if for anything that I felt uneasy about, because if you don't know, I've had two previous miscarriages. So she was like, "Tiffany, if you feel like they're not moving enough and you want to go get checked, you go right to the emergency room. If you feel this and you're concerned, you can't get into the office, you go right to the emergency room." So this is a conversation me and my doctor had already had. So I wasn't sure why the nurse was being like she was being. Um, I mean, it was 1 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't like you was really doing something anyway. So my mom waits in the waiting area with the kids, and me and my husband go in the room, and they want, they, well, if you don't know, when you're pregnant, they take your urine, they drew blood. Well, no, they took my urine, they put me in the bed, they hooked me up on the monitors, one for each baby. If you don't know, they try to get, so you have two of those things. I'll insert a picture from my NST so that you can see I have in two different locations to monitor the movement as well as the heartbeats of the babies. So um, they do that. They send my urine off, and they did something else. I think they did take my blood. So when they took, I believe it was when they took my urine and the result, they called the on-call doctor, which happened to be my doctor, and I love her. If you're in Sullivan County, New York, Dr. Kubinick is the best, and you should definitely go see her. Um, so they called her and gave her the results, and there was something, um, they found something, and she wanted to monitor me for 12 hours. So at that point, we just told my mom to go home because they were going to be monitoring me for 12 hours, and that I wouldn't get out until the next day, basically. So we were like, all right. So my doctor ends up coming in because, again, she's the doctor on call. And she comes in and she's like, Tiffany, I have to send you to Westchester. I'm like, Westchester, mind you, if you live in New York, um, it's like an hour and a half, at the most, maybe 2 hours with traffic, but I think it's like an hour and a half away. So I'm like, but you told me I can go to this hospital that is only 30 minutes away, because the hospital that I was at only takes babies that are 36 weeks gestation and forward. They don't take anything under 36 weeks, and I was 34 weeks and 3 days then. So she's like, I found protein in your urine, and your blood pressure is really high. That's what I forgot. My blood pressure was really high. And she was like, you're not dizzy, you're not swelling, none of these things. And I had no signs of preeclampsia. So if I never went into the hospital, it's not something that would have been found because my whole pregnancy, my blood pressure had been normal. So she was like, you have preeclampsia. We're going to give you a shot of magnesium. We're going to give you magnesium to try to bring your blood pressure down. And we're going to give you a shot to develop the baby's lungs. And I'm like, okay, it's a steroid shot. They shot me in my arm, and she said, the ambulance is coming, and they're going to take you to Westchester. And I'm like, oh my God. I've never ridden in the back of an ambulance. I've ridden in an ambulance for my husband, but I've never ridden in the back of one. So they get my IV in. Child, they put a catheter in me. The worst experience of my life. You hear me? Of my life. I almost kicked the lady because they was hurting me, and I've had catheters before, but I was numb, from when you have C-sections. All right, when you have any type of surgery, they put a catheter in you, but you're knocked out. You don't feel anything. I was 100,000% conscious, and it was the worst. If I could have hit one of the nurses, my doctor came over to me and she was rubbing my head and she was like, it's okay, Tiffany, it's okay. Just try to be as still as you possible. I'm looking at her like, I'm gonna, this mess hurts. So they come and I stand up and walk to the stretcher for the ambulance and get on that, and they push me downstairs and all that, put me in the back. The guy's like, just try to relax and maybe try to get some sleep. Now they're taking my blood pressure every, I want to say like 15 minutes. So we drive, and it is the bumpiest ride ever. I swear this ambulance guy was like hitting every bump in the road. Like, I would have preferred my mom to have driven me because it was just a horrible, horrible ride. I don't know if you've ever rode in the back of an ambulance, but it's not comfortable at all. And this guy just, I don't know if he liked bumps, he didn't care. I really don't, it was too early in the morning because we left at like 3 something. Like, I don't know what was going on. So we get to Westchester and they put me in the bed. And the first nurse I had, she was excellent. She was a very sweet lady. And they come in and they're asking me all these questions. And I almost cussed the resident out because she tried to basically force me to get my tubes tied and try to tell me that I have scar tissue and all this other stuff. And mind you, I've never delivered a baby in New York State. So it's not like they could even contact my doctor who delivered my previous 2 kids to get any information. My 2 older kids were born in Alabama. And my doctor, in fact, told me after Symphony that I didn't have a lot of scar tissue. So I already knew she was telling stories. So she was trying to, like, basically trying to make me sign paperwork to get my tubes tied, which personally, that's not something that I would do. If that's something you want to do, that's fine. Just from my experience, all the women who I know who have had their tubes tied had to get a hysterectomy, and I'm not about that life. So I'm good. So she ended up leaving though because by the time we got there, it was like 5 something in the morning. And her shift changed at 7, and I was so happy that she left because I did not like her. Um, and on top of that, so she had the resident who was underneath her check me, which I knew I wasn't dilated. I've had 2 C-sections, and in both cases, I was 40 weeks in a day with Micah, and I wasn't dilated. And even when they induced me, I didn't get past 4 centimeters. And I understand that every baby is different, but just in my case, my body is just like, girl, we not here for that. So, so they're monitoring me. I keep having to move because it's hard to monitor more than one baby in the womb. So they keep coming in, changing my position, doing different things to get it. So the nurse lets me lay on my side and take a nap. And so I think I slept for maybe an hour, and then one of the babies did something and they couldn't get his heart. So they were like, you got to move. So I'm like, that's good. That's fine or whatever. So around, I want to say like 12 o'clock they came in, and my blood pressure was really high. And I still have been on the magnesium since I left Catskill Hospital. That's the hospital that's close to me. So the lady came in and was like, the head resident sees that your blood pressure is too high, so he wants us to give you this medicine to help your blood pressure get lower, and go from there. So I'm like, okay. So they give me the first medicine, and I guess they wait about an hour, and my blood pressure does not go down. My blood pressure is, I think it was like 157 over something. So the lady was like, okay, we're going to give you the second medicine. And we'll go from there. Now, I don't think they ever gave me the second medicine. I think that the resident just decided that because of my blood pressure maintaining being so high, and I had been getting the magnesium since, I want to say like 3 something in the morning, and it's like 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and my blood pressure is still high. They decided that they wanted to go ahead and take the baby. So I was emotional and I was upset. These boys did not wait. I did not want them to come this soon. I didn't want them to be in the NICU. But just like their brother and my grandfather, whose birthday is today, they make their own rules. And that's all I have to say.
Well, they're gonna bill Medicaid like crazy. Then they go, oh, she done got all the water. It's 3,400 worth of water right there.
because I'm at a strange place. I don't know these doctors. I don't trust them. Um, I don't have any experience with them. The nurses was all great. Even the doctor who delivered the boys, he wasn't like he didn't have like good bedside manner. He just was about business. Like when he came in there, he was looking at stuff, doing whatever. You know, he wasn't really like chatting or anything like that. Um, so I have a relationship with my OBGYN. When I had my miscarriage in 2015, she cried with me, so I love my doctor. Like I love her. And so it was just a scary experience to be so far away from home and about to deliver these two babies and have preeclampsia. And I was trying to be good and trying to keep them in as long as I could, and just trying to make sure that they were as ready, as developed as possible. That's what I want to say, as developed as possible before they came out. But um, preeclampsia is not something you really can control, especially when it just comes all of a sudden. It's not like it was something I was dealing with the whole time. It just kind of happens suddenly. Um, so they decided they want to go ahead and take the baby. So I start filling out paperwork. Um, they come in, the anesthesiologist comes in and talk to me. The NICU comes in and talk to me. Um, the I think she's like the gynecologist, or she's over the maternity floor. So she comes in and talks to me. They check with me about getting my tubes out again, and I'm like, no, thank you. They come and ask me about any birth control. I'm like, I'll talk to my personal doctor about that. I'm not doing any of that right now. So they get everything ready, and it's like one something, and they wheel me out. And before they wheel me out, I look to my left at my blood pressure, and it's 160 over something. I don't even know what the bottom number was, but it was really high. So they take me into the operating room, and they ask me to stand, and they're like, no, just help her get onto the table. So I do that, and I sit, feet hanging off the side of the table, with my back to the anesthesiologist. And I guess he has like the ultrasound thing, looking for how he's going to do my spinal tap for my C-section. And I have my hands on one of the residents in front of me. And no, I didn't have my hands. She asked me to put my hands on her, and I'm looking at her like, girl, if I fall on you, we gonna, because she's smaller than me. So when I have people smaller than me trying to help me, I'm just like, no, I'm good. I can handle it. So I just feel myself getting dizzy, and it's like I just begin to rock back and forth. Then I just started rocking in a circle, and I look to my right, and my blood pressure is 106 over like 60 or 60 or something. It's low. And I just hear the anesthesiologist is like, you gotta lay her down, you gotta lay her down, she's gonna fall, you gotta lay her down. And he lays me down, and he puts the mask on my face, and he's just like, breathe. And I'm like, I can't do this, because y'all, to be honest with you, I was scared as hell. Let's just be honest. I was scared as hell. Nobody, C-sections are scary in general, planned or not planned. Emergency um, is even worse, because so much is going on, and they're trying to get everything done, because it's not anything planned, so nothing is necessarily ready. The operating room is ready, but it's not ready, if that makes sense. So when you go in for a C-section, if you don't know, when you first go in, you're in there by yourself. So everything that they're doing, you're alone, and you're completely conscious. It's not like you're unconscious. You're completely conscious the whole time. So I'm scared. Nobody, the only person that's there is my husband, and he can't come in. So I'm just in here with 10, 15 people, because they got to have a nurse for each baby. They got a nurse for me. It's just a lot of people in this little operating room. And I don't know any of these people. And so I'm scared. And he's like, you got to calm down, just breathe. And I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, you got to do it for your babies. And y'all, that's the last thing I remember is being put to sleep. And I woke up. I didn't wake up, but I gained a little bit of consciousness. And I don't remember. I wasn't fully awake. That's what I'm trying to say. I wasn't fully awake. And there was something in my throat. And I'm trying to get it. And I just remember falling back asleep. And I woke up. I was starting to like gain consciousness again. Like you're in between sleep and being awake. And I'm trying to get up again, and something is in my mouth, and I'm trying to get it, and my hands won't move. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's going on, or whatever. So I go back to sleep. I wake up again, and I'm start crying because there's a tube down my throat. I'm in ICU, in trauma ICU, and there's a tube down my throat. And I'm just like, can we please take this tube out? Can we please take this tube out? And the doctor who was there, he said, yeah, you can take it out or whatever. And I was so excited that tube was out. I don't know. I know now what happened, but at the moment, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where my babies were. I didn't know why I was in this unit. Um, then so a lot of stuff that I'm about to tell you is from what was told to me. So the next day, I'm more conscious. Now, I did call my mom that night to let her know that I was okay because I hadn't talked to her since before I had the babies. So my husband is telling me that the babies are fine. They're in NICU. But they told him that I can't go see them because I'm in the ICU, and I can't go from the ICU to see the babies in the NICU. So I had them Monday at 2:12 and 2:13. And so it's Tuesday now. So they released me from the trauma ICU. I want to say like around 2, 3 o'clock, and they put me in back into labor and delivery, because my blood pressure still was high and it still wasn't going down. So they still were monitoring me. So in this process is when my husband begins to tell me things that happen. So basically, y'all, um, my blood pressure, my blood pressure dropped extremely low. And um, they did my C-section as fast as they could because they could not get my blood pressure to regulate. And they were in a rush because they didn't know what was going to happen. So they took out both the babies, and they were both in one, I think they're called incubators. They both were in one incubator going from the operating room to the NICU. And they were trying to stitch me up and get me stable, and it didn't happen. And they end up having to resuscitate me because of how low my blood pressure had gotten. And that's why I ended up in the trauma ICU. My husband said they put me in one ICU first, and that ICU could not handle the care that I needed at the time. And so they then put me in the trauma ICU because it's a higher degree of care. The nurse that I had, she only had me. She didn't have another patient. So they put me in there just because they were trying to stabilize me. And he told me that when I was starting to gain consciousness, I tried to pull the tube out my throat. And so he said when I did that, they was like, oh, you going to sleep. And I think I did it one more time, and they ended up restraining me to the bed because I was trying to pull the tube out my throat. If you've never had that experience, um, it's like something is stabbing you in the back of, like, um, a sharp piece of plastic, and it's stabbing you in the back of your throat, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's annoying, and it's not painful to the point of excruciating pain, but it's like annoying pain. If that makes sense to you, it's like annoying pain. And so they every time that I would wake up and try to do it, they would just give me medicine to go back to sleep. And they were explaining to me, he explained to me that they explained to him that I needed the rest because of what my body had went through. And so one of the funny things, my friend actually came um, that day after I had them, and she was in the ICU with me, and I didn't even know she was there. And she said that they were giving me some kind of medicine, and they said the name. And my husband was like, "Y'all trying to give my wife the Michael Jackson medicine, the medicine that killed Michael Jackson?" And they was like, "Sir, when it's used properly, it's not dangerous." And stuff. And I was like, "He's so crazy." But he was concerned because he's never seen me um, in a situation like that. At that point, we had been together almost 10 years. There's nothing that has ever happened to me that for him to be concerned or scared about me waking up or, any of those things. So, um, I was in the labor and delivery till about midnight. They were still monitoring my blood pressure. They did give me something to eat, but I still couldn't go visit my babies. And to be honest with you, in spite of having to be resuscitated and being in the trauma ICU, that probably was the hardest thing for me. Is that I didn't get to hear their first cry. I didn't get to see them when they came out. I didn't get to see them that day. I didn't get to see them the next day. And so it just was a very painful, emotionally painful experience. Um, so I was in labor and delivery for a while, till about midnight. Then they got me a room in the maternity. And I don't know what's wrong with y'all Westchester Medical Center, but y'all rooms should not be that small for people to share. As small as y'all rooms are, if anybody is watching that is from there, um, you definitely need to make the rooms bigger, especially when women are traveling um, an hour and a half, an hour or whatever to come to your hospital because they have like the best hospital in New York State or the best NICU in New York State for babies, or one of the best, rather, I should say. And so it's not like, you live in the area and you're planning on having a baby there. You're traveling, so your spouse is traveling with you, and everybody doesn't have the means to travel an hour and a half back and forth every day. And you don't make, most hospitals, somebody could stay in a room with you. My husband couldn't stay in the room with me. Um, I just wanted to put that little rant in there. So anyway, they put me in the room and I'm in pain. And the lady is like, "Well, they've already given you your pain medicine." And I'm like, "Lady, I don't care what they said that they gave me or whatever. This pain is unbearable." And I'm not a person that I like to take medicine. So if I'm in pain and I'm telling you I want medicine, I'm in a lot of pain. And so she's like, "Well, we're gonna get you up out the bed and get you walking and da 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 da." And I was like, "You're not gonna do nothing until you get this pain managed. Nothing is happening, and nobody wants to walk more than me. I haven't seen my babies yet. I haven't been able to hold them, to kiss them, to touch them, to smell them, hear them cry, hear whatever noise they're making. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So nobody wants me up out this bed that I've been in for 2 days more than I do." She's like, "Well, I'll go and I'll call the doctor or whatever." And I'm like, "All right, thank you." So she goes and she calls the doctor, and he allows her to give me something, or whoever is on there, they give me something, and she comes back at like 5 in the morning, and she's like, "So how are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm good." I was like, "The pain's not all the way gone, but it's to where I can deal with it." And she's like, "All right, so I'm gonna take your catheter out and we're going to get you up. And I'm like, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready to get at it so I can see my babies or whatever. So um, they take me out. I go sit in the chair. They want me to sit in the chair for an hour. I sat there, which, first of all, let me say this too. Another sidebar or rant, whatever you want to call it. I'm size sexy, right? I'm not small woman by any means. And that chair was little. People come in different shapes and sizes. And at a hospital, I feel like you should better accommodate people. The average woman is a size 14. She's not a 2. She's not a 3. So we should be more friendly to the size sexy, or this size sexy, let me say, women out there. But anyway, let me continue on with my story. So I text my husband. He ended up sleeping in one of the waiting areas, which they let you do that. Not that it's comfortable, but they let you do that. And so I texted him and I told him that around 10 o'clock, I wanted to go see the babies. So he came over, and that's when I got to meet my boys. Um, Wednesday around 10 o'clock. Well, after 10, of course. I had to wait for the people to come, but that's when I got to meet them. And um, I just want to say God is amazing because He kept me safe and He kept my baby safe through that whole ordeal. Even making a way, they have a Ronald McDonald House that is next to the hospital. It does have limited space, but they do have one. And on Tuesday, the lady came in and told me and my husband about it, and told him to go over there and put an application in, and he did. And he was able to get us a room, um, so that when I was discharged, I went to the Ronald McDonald House instead of having to come home and possibly leave my babies there, which I was crying leaving the hospital, and I was only a 5 to 10 minute walk. Well, up to the NICU, maybe like 5 minutes, to the NICU to be able to go and see them. So um, I couldn't imagine having to leave them at the hospital all alone. I know people do it all the time, and God bless them and their strength, um, to be able to handle that. The NICU is a very sobering experience, a very humbling experience. Um, thank, Thanks to God, and I give Him all the honor that my babies. There was a little boy in there who he was born prematurely. And I don't know what he had because it's not my place to ask, and they can't. And even if I asked, they couldn't have told me. But he had been in the hospital months after his birth, and there was a little girl in there, and she used to just be in pain, and she would be crying, and my babies was just in there basically to gain weight. Except for Tamias. Tamias had Brady's, and he didn't tolerate feeding well at first, so he had a little problems. Pierce had jaundice, and they were just trying to get him to gain weight and stuff. But I met a lady who baby son was born in June, and he wasn't due to October, and when he was born, he was 11 ounces, and her and her husband, the first month they stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, and then they were commuting an hour there. And you just meet people who are just had the miracle, are just went through the experience of bringing a child into this world, and not able to hold their baby, not able to take their baby home. There's restrictions when you go to the NICU. My niece couldn't go in and visit my sons, the twins, And then you have to have permission to bring other people in, and the kids have to be checked. And, it's just a lot of stuff because they want to make sure that the babies don't get sick. And I'm not saying that none of that is valid. I'm just saying that, it's a lot to just deal with. We so often we take for granted the ability for people to have babies and that babies are just going to come home okay. And that's not always the case for everybody. And even though I got to bring both my babies home, Pierce was in the NICU 9 days and Tamias was in the NICU 12 days. Um, some people babies are in NICUs for months. And I think I saw a thing where a little boy was leaving the NICU and he was like 2. And you know, we just take for granted the preciousness of life and the ability to bring life in this world and bring it home. And that event 8 months later um, is still very traumatic for me. Um, when I go to the doctor now, every time I go, my heart is racing. And even 8 months later, I'm still dealing with the effects of preeclampsia. I had more symptoms of preeclampsia after I had them than before. My feet swole up double in size. Um, I was getting dizzy. Um, just stuff that I never dealt with, just happening to me. And the event was so traumatizing for me that when I went to the dentist to get my tooth pulled, I started crying and he didn't even do anything to me. But I went through a lot. Even being at the hospital, I was in the hospital almost 7 days myself. Um, even dealing with the stuff that I dealt with was a lot for me. Um, some people I wanted there, they wasn't, and just a lot of stuff. But that's the twins' birth story, and they are happy and healthy 8 months old babies. Tamias weighs 19 pounds, 6 ounces, and Pierce weighs 18 pounds, 2 ounces. So I'm very grateful for all my babies. And I'm even more grateful for them just because of the experience that we had. And, you never know what could happen. And they both were blue when they were born. They needed oxygen only for a little time. They were both on room air by the second day. They were so little. So Tamias was 5 pounds, 2 ounces, and Pierce was 6 pounds, 2 ounces. So I'm very grateful. God definitely kept us, and I'm very grateful for Him for keeping us, for watching over us and protecting us. And even though I was in the operating room alone, I wasn't alone because He was there with me and He held me through the process. And He didn't leave me. He's been with me the whole time, guiding me and holding me when I felt unsupported, or when I felt alone, or when all these emotions was going on. He was right there with me. He never left me. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for Him keeping me and just watching over us. So, um, that's the baby's birth story and a little bit of our hospital stay. Um, so, thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell to be notified. And don't forget to share this video with someone who's interested to know what a labor and delivery could be like with twins. Everybody's story is different, I don't want you to look at this like, oh my God, I would never have twins. Because some people have twins and nothing. You know, it's just a regular delivery. Some people have singletons and have traumatic experiences. So, you know, my story may not be your story, but um, I hope that you find something that you may have learned or you are able to take away something from this. So thanks so much for watching my video. Have a great day.